everyone, welcome to our 6th episode of our Heart Heroes podcast. Today we're joined by the lovely Kellyanne, who is going to share her story around organ donation and her family's experience with that. So Kellyanne, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
You ready to bare your soul?
Yeah.
Get ready. So if you want to start then, I'm well aware of Evie's story and your story with her, but if you want to just give us a bit of background then just about how you guys became a heart family.
Yeah, we first became a heart family. We have 3 daughters, 2 that's Mary, Maeve and then Evie, and then we went for our anomaly scan with our 3rd child. We have 2 girls and then our 3rd one. Thinking everything was going to be okay. We had 2 healthy girls, thinking this was just a 3rd, and then they find there were some abnormalities in Downpatrick, and then they didn't tell us initially that it was the heart. They did say that it was just some abnormalities. We were seen by someone else, and then at that stage they did say there is something, and we do need further investigation. So we were referred to fetal medicine, and it was Professor Casey diagnosed Evie with hypoplastic left heart syndrome. Mm-hmm. So that condition basically meant that she had half a heart. Mm-hmm. It was really tough. Did not expect it, I think, especially having 2 healthy pregnancies and 2 healthy girls, and that fun experience of going to a scan, and but it was definitely tough. So from the onset, Professor Casey was great. He was really informative, really good, and just understanding, and really spoke to us and tried to understand. We didn't know nothing like this we had ever seen before. Yeah. So it was very, very hard at the start, but basically told us that Evie's condition was a palliative condition. So it meant that she would need, it would either be that if she was born and with no intervention, she would pass within days or weeks, or there's the surgical route, which means that she would need surgeries to survive. Mm-hmm. We chose the surgical route, and so from then it was really good. We were seen by Professor Casey every so often. We got scans done, and then we met with the fetal nurse, mm-hmm. and she was great. She was really, really good. So we were prepared as much as we could. And then that was when we went to some of the fun days with you guys. Yeah. And we actually met you guys and met other families. And it was great for the girls because they then, I remember Mary, she came home, she was like, so we're a heart family now. So I just think it was that onset, communication, and they had just met that there was always somebody there. So Evie was, we had Evie in the Royal. So, and she was, we were supposed to be in gist, or I was supposed to be in gist, but she came herself. And it was great. And then, we were prepared. We were prepared to some degree of what would happen once she was born if we were walked through the suite. Edith had told us, what would happen. But I think when it happened, it was just, it was so different. We didn't expect it like this. I remember I had bought Evie an outfit to put her in to get photos, and then I remember Edith was like, no, we need to, Evie needs to go to the ICU, she needs to start medication, so she was born, good delivery, she was fine, she did look normal when she was born, she really, really did. And I think looking back, that was the first we seen her, she had no scars on her, and I think we were then transferred to Birmingham. Yeah. When she was about 24 hours, we then were transferred to Birmingham for her first open heart surgery. That was really hard. It was, I think it was, again, didn't know what to expect, we really didn't. Staff were great, we were really looked after, but nothing prepares you for seeing your child back from surgery.
I suppose those initial surgeries, and yes, while you were as prepared as you could be while you were still pregnant, then Evie made her grand arrival and then everything sped up and you found yourself in Birmingham. What impact did that have on your kind of family unit? So I'm thinking particularly about the girls. Yeah. It's a lot of change, and then all of a sudden mum and dad aren't there.
Yeah. We did, we tried to tell them, prepare them to some degree, at that time, you know, Maeve was only 2 and Marion was 7. She was 6 turning 7. And it was hard, so we tried to do, like, we had like wee books, and you know, we had stuff for the girls, like wee teddies that Evie got her, we got presents, and our parents were really good, you know. Gareth's mum and my mum and dad were great, so they, you know, they were really good. And then with Marion starting school, you know, I already pre-spoke to her school, and they were great. The school were really, really good. But yeah, it was hard, and I think because whenever Evie was born, we were away the next day, you know, so the girls got up to see me, and then they didn't get to see Evie, you know, because she was in ICU, and our parents briefly got to see Evie, you know, they weren't allowed to touch her or hold her or anything, and then we were transferred out. So yeah, FaceTime was hard, you know. Again, Marion was a wee bit more, we knew a wee bit more, but it was hard on me. You know, she really struggled, you know, she was only 2 and I was away, and you know, there were paths between them. We had to do we had pre-done schedules, you know, so there was one granny was lifting for, you know, for school, and then there was somebody else, and then, you know, but then it was like the mums and other groups, like the dancing mums were like taking Marion, and you know, it was really the support. Yeah, we really needed the support, and thankfully we had it. In Birmingham, we actually took the girls over to see Evie, and that was the first time they see Evie post surgery. And in hindsight, it was good for them, but it was hard for us. I think it was like, you know, Evie was still in ICU. It was so hard to try and balance looking after Evie and then looking after the girls. Yeah, I'm glad we did it, you know, but it was definitely hard. You know, it was definitely hard. So it's hard being a mum to Charlie's still in ICU, and like I was still recovering, and it was still hard, and mentally it was hard, and then having to, like, that guilt of the girls being away, but yeah, they were very spoilt. Yeah, they were really, you know, I was a good spoilt. Yeah, and a good spoilt, a definitely good spoilt. There was a wee bit of detox of YouTube. But yeah, it was hard because when we did come home from Evie recovered well during the surgery, went well as expected, but she was tiny, and like she didn't eat, like she was tube fed from day dot, and so post her surgery it was getting her weight up, so we were referred to a closer hospital to home, and yeah, we got her home, and it was busy. It was really busy at that stage. Evie was getting 8 feeds a day, and it was 24 hours, you know, and then again trying to get back into some sort of routine at home with the girls, and then with Evie's condition, a second surgery was needed around 4 months. But after Christmas, Evie started to become unwell again, and one of our clinics, I remember Dr. Sandy said her echo just wasn't crisp. And I remember those words, it just wasn't crisp. And we were admitted on the 3rd of January, and to start new medicines and stuff. So it was like we just got home, you know, we had a wee bit of normality, and then we were back in. And yeah, little did we know that was just the way it went. It just, we barely seen home. So back in, started new medicines, and we actually remained there until after Evie's second surgery. And it was leading up to her second surgery, and Evie was coming unwell, and the new medicines were started, and it was at that stage, I remember Dr. Sands came in, and they were scheduling her second surgery. And I remember he said, that was the first time he had mentioned transplant. And they did say this, I remember Professor Casey did say, you know, this condition, you know, down the line may need transplant, but it could be into adolescence or, you know, hopefully adulthood. But we never thought transplant at this stage. And I remember he had said, you know, at that stage she was maybe a wee bit unwell, she may not be eligible for the second surgery. Right. And then it may be transplant, but it wasn't a conversation that it was like, right, well, this may, you know, and it definitely wasn't.
No certainty,
but we could get the surgery, and it may not happen, but we did get the surgery, and she was a bit unwell before it, and we came home, and then Evie took really sick when we came home, and then. Yeah, we didn't expect her to, like this again. The second surgery went well. Again, it was tough. We were in Birmingham. It was again back to, you know, the girls going from pillar to post. You know, we were over in Birmingham for weeks on end, and it was tough again. But coming home, we thought this is great. We actually went home to see the girls, And I remember one of the nurses had phoned and said, we were actually driving up the road, and I remember they said, I know you're driving, but I'm just letting you know Evie has had a wee turn and she just got really sick. And I think at that stage was the first when we thought, right, this is something more. She's just not recovering properly from surgery. And then Dr. Sand had said we may need to start the conversations about transplant. But again, was nothing that was going to happen straight away. I think Evie was the determining factor. If she recovered well, she was like a steady pace. But if she took sick, then it's definitely something that we needed to look at. She recovered. Evie just did this throughout the whole time. She just deteriorated, and then I wouldn't say bounced back, but recovered back to a state. And it was like, it was mentally, it was hard. It was really like, and Evie was one of them ones that was really good on the outside, but on the inside was just a different story. And that was coming a harsh reality. That there's so much more going on. We did get her home for a few weeks, but again, Evie's feeding and her weight was a major issue for her. So, and there's a lot of pressure, having a child who's tube fed that needs to be certain weight for certain surgeries. It was hard, that pressure was then on us, to make sure she was maintaining the weight. And, obviously whenever Evie had her heart problems like that, it was a massive factor on her health. But it was a lot of pressure to kind of, to maintain that. Evie then took sick again. But one day she was fine. She was sitting playing. She was fine, and then and I remember we were in Clark Clinic, and I remember what bed space we were in, and I just remember the ward sister at the time walked past and just said her colour isn't right. She just, by looking at her, she wasn't right. And then by the next day we were in ICU, and it was and then we were like, this is the road. This is the start of it. Evie deteriorated further. Then we were in ICU for 2 months. And that's the transplant was definitely a conversation. That was going to be the way to go.
And how did you feel? I suppose that's a big change then in your mindset as well, because it's been get her weight on, get her to surgery, and then get her weight on, get her back, get her to the next surgery. To go from heart surgery, which is huge, to then heart transplant and all that involves, and it's obviously a much bigger surgery, and you have to wait on the availability of the right heart. What did that do to you, to Gareth, to your family then, mentally, that kind of change of mindset?
I think it was really difficult, but there was so much more to it. Evie was then, so when we were told about, they contacted the Freemans, that was where we would have been for assessment. And because we're in Northern Ireland, and then the Freemans is obviously in England, we would have went over for assessment. But at that stage, Evie was too sick to transfer to do transplant assessment. So we had a coordinator come to ICU and did all the assessments. We needed all the talks. But Gareth and I had to fly to Freemans, and then there we met with consultants, social workers, psychologists. We got to see around the place and then sign consents. And that was tough. That was, I think it was like, this was actually happening. Like this was, you do kind of think, right, it's talked about, it may happen, and I think with Evie, again, she's always been, okay, she'll maybe, she does drop, but then she she comes back a bit, and she's still, and at that stage she was still sick, but she's still her wee bubbly self. She still had a wee character.
A little ponytail.
Her little ponytail. That was the nurses had field day with hairstyles. But it didn't seem a reality. And even when we were over, like we flew over that day, signed, did everything, and then flew home that night. And it was hard leaving her, but it was a reality. But if I'm being honest, we didn't think it was our reality. I think because Evie was so young, and then again, I was never, you sign your driving license for organ donation and stuff. You don't, at that stage you just think of adults, but like Evie is a baby. Like at that stage, Evie was 5-6 months old, do you know?
Yeah.
So you just don't see a baby, do you know? And then
you don't think of children being on an organ donor list,
do you know? And then like knowing how hard it was for her going through surgeries, do you know, like, and seeing her and like her wee body, and it was tough. It was really, really tough. And then so we got all the tests. The ICU staff were great, and Dr. Sands was great. He really pushed to get us listed. We were listed then. And again, it was just a day-to-day thing, you know. And it was hard being in Northern Ireland and then with our transplant team in England. That was tough, you know. But we were well looked after here. But again, Evie took sick. Evie got really sick then, to the point where we signed DNRs for Evie. You know, do not resuscitate. She got so sick, and that was a real low point. And yeah, that was a scary time. Yeah.
And was that a point where you had a lot of doubt? Did you lose hope at that time that, you know, an organ would come in time for Evie, or that she would get through the surgery?
Again, if I'm really, really honest, I never seen Evie getting hurt. No, I didn't. I think because she was so sick. And at that stage, you know, we had signed the DNRs and we had spoke to family. You know, she did drop really low at that stage, and there was certain preparations were talked about and made, and at one stage we were moved to a side room. So we didn't. I don't think we ever really thought about we would get it. I really didn't. But Evie being Evie, kind of, bounced back to a certain degree. You know, she was bad, but she just got a bit less bad. Is the best I can describe it. But yeah, that was really tough. You know, and it was the right thing to do. Sign the DNR. You know, at that stage she was so sick, and it was like she just wasn't. She didn't even want to be held. You know, like family came to see her. Like my brothers flew home to see her, and we brought the girls in and did family things, and you guys did family things with us. But again, it wasn't transplant just didn't. I think it was very much day to day. You know, we just needed to see the next day. You know, and at that stage we were just to a palliative and in life care nurse, and we then looked into the hospice. So we kind of like looked at Evie's quality of life rather than quantity, and so we just looked at her perspective. And the one thing I always said was like, we expected the worst, but we really hoped for the best. You know, so we did want her to get it, and we did hope to get it. But I think her age, and you know, that was kind of against her. But we just kind of changed our perspective and started trying to like enjoy her, and you know, the girls enjoy her. We didn't want the hospital setting, and we were moved out of ICU. We moved back to Evie's home in Clark Clinic. We moved back to her bed space. And it was good.
In the form of
and it was good. You know, like we at that stage, Evie was only home for 8 weeks in total. Out of her whole from time, you know, she got her transplant, we were only home 8 weeks in total. So she had no time at home. You know, she grew up in Clark Clinic, and as hard as it was great. It was good. You know, the nurses were great, the doctors were great, the cleaners were great. You know, it was just, to us, they were family, you know. So as hard as it was just what needed to happen. And then Evie took sick again, and things got hard again then, and then there was potential for her to go back to ICU. But we were just afraid if she went to ICU, she wouldn't come back out. There was talks of something that was initially mentioned in assessment, but they didn't offer it, a mechanical device, you know, to kind of help Evie. It was initially rejected after, like they said, she wouldn't, but there was talks of it now, or at that stage. But it was so hard because we would have needed to go to Newcastle, so we had to, and that was really hard as parents, you know, like, you know, do we risk taking Evie to England to try this that may not work, and risk losing her, you know, over there, away from family, away from the girls? Or do we like not do it and always think, you know,
What if?
And I just remember, like, Gareth and I, like, that was a decision we would have had to make. It was really hard.
Yeah.
But I remember Dr. Sam said, he's like, whatever we decide, we'll decide together. And that was just a massive weight. It was just, and then it was shortly after that we got the call.
So Evie has quite the story, so much so that we've had to do a second episode. So keep an eye on our socials and stay tuned for part 2 of Evie, Kellyanne and the Keown's family story.